Why are we laying people off? There's going to be an aftermath of emotion in the organization. There's only 4 human emotions that matter at work: mad, sad, glad, and scared. Leadership can be very lonely. To become a leader, you have to do things that a lot of people are not willing to do.
I want to move on to layoffs, if I may. It's also it's been such a big thing this last year. You know, we've seen a lot of layoffs, specifically in tech and financial services and a few others. And clearly, the ones that have done it badly have made it onto social media, which is probably why we talk about it so much. But what are your thoughts on how to do what is a very difficult task?
Oh gosh, that's such a broad topic. Why are we laying people off? Were you communicating that before? Are you laying off underperformers? Were they clear on the expectations? I mean, there's so many different pieces. Part of the biggest, I think, unintentional lie that leaders make is that we get paid for performance. And it's not intentional, because you think, well, I pay them for performance. Well, what if there's no budget? You can perform at the top of the game, but there is no money. I can't pay you for that performance because there's just no budget. And so and that's why, a lot of the employee review programs and systems are so off, because you ask them, one, everybody hates doing employee reviews. Managers hate conducting them. And then when you do the assessment and say, okay, why is that the case? They say, well, HR is making us do it. I said, okay, you go to HR. I said, why are we doing this? Well, legal's making us do it. So it does nothing to empower the organization. You wait 6 months to tell them how they're doing so that they've realized that they're failing. It takes time and energy. It hurts morale. And so now there's this process. So I don't even know where I stand. If I'm surprised that I'm not performing, then there's been a big misstep on the leadership communicating that. I should be knowing that from day one. It's like the old example from the 1-minute manager. You have a hard time motivating people, and you pay them to come to work, and then you figure out, how do we motivate them? Well, you paid them. Well, that doesn't work. But take them bowling. Give them this big ball, have them rolling down, and if they hit those pins down, they lose their minds. They didn't get paid. Why? Why is it they get so excited in that moment and they don't get excited at work? I said, well, they visually see the pins go down. Well, all right, let's do this. Let's put a blanket over those pins and have them roll down. They go, how did I do? Well, we'll tell you in 6 months. That game, even if a week, I'll tell you in a week, that game would not be fun because there's no feedback loop. And so one of the secrets is saying, how do you have immediate feedback in a situation? Now, that catches people off guard because they're not ready for something like that. You're off base. Yes, you're off base. Nope, that's not working. Well, what? Well, would you rather me wait for 6 months of you being off base, or we fix it now? And so that's part of the leadership communication and setting the expectations from day one in that process and there. And so the layoffs, a lot of times we'll see organizations that will announce the layoffs to Wall Street or to the newspapers because they're trying to show that we're making the right decisions. Well, we saw this one time 15 years ago. Volkswagen announced they were getting rid of like 10,000 people. We haven't figured out who they are yet, but we're making choices. But now you get 100,000 people, all of which thinking something might be them. What happened to productivity? Dips. What happened to stock price? Goes up. But then the productivity catches up, and then it has a massive dip after that part. And so there's all sorts of research that shows that. And so looking at those pieces in terms of layoffs, there's a couple different elements. One, making sure you have the relationships, all the stuff we talked about. But let's say that you have to do it anyways.
Yeah.
There's going to be an aftermath of emotion in the organization. And that aftermath of emotion needs to be dealt with. It needs to be processed some way, shape, or form. And so if the leader does nothing to process that emotion, the people will do it on their own at the water cooler, on breaks, in private meetings. And what happens when they're doing that? Productivity-wise, nothing. No productivity, because they're not working. They're dealing with the emotions that we think, oh, they should just not feel that way. No, they're humans. Our clients, what they do is we've got a process that we call 4 on the floor. And you can make this up on your own. You don't need us for it. But there's only 4 human emotions that matter at work: mad, sad, glad, and scared. So I'm mad, sad, I'm happy, and I'm scared. If you think about those are the 4 emotions that are easiest to deal with, like the primary colors. When something like that happens, and let's say it's a big layoff, we'll take the survivors. They have survivor guilt. And we'll put those 4 feelings on the floor. Instead of having them talk about how they feel, stand where you feel. Some people are glad, some people are mad, some people are sad, and some people are scared. As a leader, can spend 45 minutes and saying, let me just, okay, why are you guys mad? Well, I'm mad because we didn't do the right things, and I'm mad because I lost, just really, I thought we had a bigger vision than this, and it's just really frustrating. The leader just listens. All right, why are you sad? Well, I lost one of my best friends. We used to come to work together, and I spend more time here than I do with my home family, and I feel like I lost a brother, and it's really hard. Why scared? Well, I'm scared that we might have more coming. I was scared that, like, am I going to be losing my job? Why glad? Well, I'm glad that we made these decisions now because we're preventing having to do this in the future. So the leader gets all this information, one, but people also get a chance to offload in a safe and structured environment the humanness of who they are. And if you're a leader that doesn't believe that people have emotions, you need to start there and wake up. That is not the case. We have a human emotion. We all do. And now, your job as a leader is to provide a space to be able to do that. Now, once that's done, we say, okay, here's where we are. What you'll find is that people will feel so much so different that the organization gave them a chance to at least be heard. I don't need you to do what I say. I just need to be heard. And people fear that moment because they think that they're going to have to do everything that the people feel. No, they just need to feel like they've been heard. Then now the leader says, okay, now that we've all been here, and they can empathize with them, I think 3 things: empathy, transparency, and authority. Empathy, I want to say first, thank you guys for sharing this. I also feel scared and glad and mad. I feel all of these things. Transparency. And if I could have not done this, I would have. Unfortunately, we had no choice. Authority. Now, what we all need to do is get clear. The best way to avoid this stuff happening in the future is by being as productive as we could be now. So I need to ask you, what is your bridge to glad? What do you need to do to make yourself feel glad here at work? And you watch people step into their leadership, and you watch 1 or 2 people say, you know what I need to do is I want to make 10 more phone calls this week. One person say, you know what, I need to do a better job of connecting with some of the people that maybe feel lost right now. I need to create the space for my team. And say, all of a sudden, now you get all this proactive nature. 45 minutes versus weeks of people talking on a disparate basis and with no control. So there are ways that you can do it.
Love that. Love that. Following on from that, I speak to a lot of leaders, and I'm quite interested in, where does the go-to person go to when they need help, right? Because all these layoffs is tough for the leader. If you're not on the boards, but you're a leader, you're a manager, whatever level that you're at. Even if you're a first-time leader, it's hard, and it can be quite a lonely spot, especially if you've been asked to do these things. Any advice for those folks? Just, they're a little bit lost. You don't really want to tell your leader you're struggling. How would you go about doing it?
Well, this is the reality that leadership can be very lonely. And it's lonely for lots of reasons. One is, to become a leader, you have to do things that a lot of people are not willing to do, right? You make sacrifices that some people aren't willing to make. You study harder, you stay up longer, you work longer hours. But also you're taking on a responsibility that not everybody wants. That's a pressure that not everybody wants. Whether it's financial, you got payroll, you're looking at X amount of dollars you need to be in the bank every single month. You need to make sure that P&Ls are in place. You're dealing with investors, you're dealing with other people. So it's a very different place. And you have to make sure that you're leading and inspiring and displaying the behaviors. And so if you're having a down day and you communicate your down day in the wrong way, you can also bring the organization down. And so there are certain things about transparency that you need to be, there's certain things that you need to be able to communicate, but a lot of the things that are the human parts of who we are, the small little doubts in oneself. You don't go to the organization, guys, I'm doubting myself as a leader and CEO. You can't do that, because we also know that's momentary, and that's a personal issue. That's why I'm a big fan of CEO consortium groups and leadership peer groups, because you get a bunch of people that are in the room that face the same challenges. They can create a safe space and discuss some of the challenges, but then you also get some of the other perspectives from other people that are facing the issues that you're facing. And so finding those peer groups, finding those trusted sources that you can go to, I think having a strong coach, a strong mentor in your life that might not even be in the business, that has been there before, that you can go to and say, I'm starting to doubt myself. And you go to them, they're not going to judge you. They're going to help you. And they're going to ask you the right questions. They're going to remind you who you are, or they're going to, set you straight and give you the swift kick in the butt that you need, or they're just going to listen. And then you kind of solve it on your own. But yeah, we all need an outlet. No one is immune to that stuff.